evening, we want to look at simplifying square roots, which we did today in class. And I just wanted to touch base again on how we would simplify a square root. So if we have something like the square root of 49, we know that this is a pair of 7 times 7. Therefore, the square root of 49 is 7. I just want to make sure you understand and you recognize that even though there are two 7s here, we only bring one 7 to the outside. All right? Now, if we're looking at the square root, let me change that color. The square root of 81, we know that came from 9 times 9. So 9 times 9 is a pair of 9s and gives me just the answer 9. So today we came up with this situation where, well, what if it's not a perfect square? If it's the square root of, let's say 75. Okay? And we needed to know how to simplify 75. That's a square root. Now remember, if you use a calculator, it's going to give you a decimal, and that's an estimated answer. We don't want a decimal. So we're going to factor 75. That's 3 times 25. And then from there, it's 5 times 5. Cross out anything that you factored because you don't want to confuse yourself. So now we look for pairs because a pair becomes a whole number. Pair of 5s becomes the whole number 5. When we do that extra 3, that extra 3 has to stay underneath the radical. So the extra 3 is just the square root of 3. So the square root of 75 and 5 square roots of 3 are the same. This is your simplified answer. Okay, let's do a couple more problems with that. So we wanted to do, as we said, the square root of 120, which we will do. So we're going to take the square root of 120. Now 120 can be broken into 12 times 10, 6 times 20, 3 times 40. I'm going to go with 10 and 20. I'm sorry, 12 and 20. 12 and 10. There we go. Now, as we are factoring, we want to factor the 12 into 6 times 2. We factor the 10 into 5 times 2. Factoring the 6 into 3 times 2. So if you look at these, you can see that what's happening here is we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 factors. Okay, 5 factors. And we're going to look from, of these 5 factors, what is the pair of numbers that we have been given? So we're going to circle the pairs. I have a pair of 2s. I have a single 3. I have a single 5. And I have a single 2. Now this 2 can't go with the other 2s. So you can look at this and see that, yes, I do have a 2 here. But these guys can't get together because you only can do 2 at a time. So now we're going to say what happens to the pair. The pair becomes the whole number. And then the singles will stay on the inside. So we have a 3 on the inside. We have a 5 on the inside. And we have a 2 on the inside. So our final answer, when we have more than one inside, we multiply. And therefore we get 2 square roots of 3 times 5 is 15 times 2 is 30. The square root of 20 equals 2 square roots of 30. If we're going to do one more, this is very similar to this. Let's look at the square root of 72. 9 times 8 is 72. 1 3 times 3 is over 9. Cross it out. 8 is 4 times 2. Cross it out. Don't forget 4 is not prime, so we have to factor it also into 2 times 2. Now, the second step, after we've done the factors, is to find the pairs of numbers. So, we look here and we see 3 is a pair, 2 is a pair, and we have a simple single 2. So where do the pairs go? Pairs go on the outside. So the 3 and the 2 are both going to go outside the square root, 3 times 2. And the extra radical is going to stay inside. So my final answer is 6 square roots of 2. I hope you are having a pretty good understanding of this so far. Now I want to take it one step further and look at what happens if I have a constant on the outside. So if I have 5 square roots of, we'll do 32. Remember, this really means 5 times the square root of 32. So we're going to focus on factoring and simplifying the square root of 32, focusing just on the square root of 32. All right? So here we go. Once again, as we always do, we're going to factor this. So we'll make it 32. 8 times 4. And then 8, cross it out, 4 times 2. And then 4 is 2 times 2. And another 4 is 2 times 2. So we have on the outside here, we have a pair of 2's, a pair of 2's, and an extra 2. Now, pair of 2's go on the outside. That's right here. Pair of 2's go on the outside. That's right there. And the extra 2 goes on the inside. But what about that 5? What about this 5 right here? What are we going to do with that 5? Well, that 5 has to go right here on the outside. So we're going to take that 5 and we're going to bring it down to multiply by the whole numbers that are already there. Multiply the pairs by what's already there. So we get 5 times 4 is 20. We can do this again just so you guys can see what I'm talking about. 5 times 2 is 10, times 2 is 20, or 5 times 4 is 20. Either way, you get the same answer. The final answer is 20 square roots of 2. So, hopefully that explains it as best it can to you, and it reminds you of how to simplify square roots.